The Zephyrian fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system with the confidence of a species that had conquered 47 worlds. Their massive dreadnoughts, each the size of a small moon, cast shadows across the asteroid belt as they began their inexorable advance toward the blue-green jewel that was Earth. Admiral Kethavar stood on the bridge of the flagship Dominion's edge, his four arms crossed in satisfaction. The preliminary scans had revealed exactly what their intelligence suggested: a single inhabited world with primitive technology, barely capable of rudimentary spaceflight. The humans had managed to establish a few mining colonies on their moon and neighboring planets, but nothing that could threaten a galactic superpower. "Begin the standard pacification protocol," Cathvar commanded, his translator rendering his words into the common tongue of the Galactic Collective. "Disable their communications, destroy any orbital installations, and prepare landing forces. This should be concluded within 3 rotations." What Admiral Cathvar didn't know was that humanity had been watching the stars for much longer than the Zephyrians realized. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the command center buried 3 kilometers beneath the Colorado Rockies, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the approaching fleet. Around her, hundreds of technicians worked with calm efficiency, their movements betraying no hint of panic, despite the enormity of what was unfolding above. "Hawking protocol is active," reported Commander Chen from his station. "All colonies have gone dark. Luna Base, Mars Station, and the Belt Miners are implementing radio silence." Elena nodded, her weathered face bearing the weight of decades spent preparing for this moment. The Hawking Protocol, named after the physicist who had first theorized the dangers of announcing humanity's presence to the cosmos, had been in development since the late 21st century. It had begun with a simple observation. If the universe was teeming with intelligent life, why hadn't they made contact? The answer, many scientists concluded, was that perhaps making contact wasn't always beneficial for the contacted. The dark forest theory suggested that space was filled with civilizations hiding from each other, like hunters in a forest, because revealing oneself often meant extinction. So humanity had prepared, not just with weapons or shields, but with deception on a scale never before attempted. The Zephyrian advance scouts reached the outer system first, their sensors sweeping across the cold, airless worlds. They found exactly what they expected: small mining installations, primitive fusion reactors, and a few thousand humans eking out an existence in the harsh vacuum of space. The scouts reported back that resistance would be minimal. The first hint that something was wrong came when the Zephyrian ships began experiencing system failures. It started small. Navigation errors, communication glitches, minor power fluctuations. Admiral Cathvar attributed it to solar interference. This star was known to be particularly active. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we're detecting some unusual gravitational readings near the gas giant. It might be affecting our systems." Cathvar barely glanced at the data. Jupiter was massive, certainly, but nothing their ships couldn't handle. He was more concerned with the fact that they still hadn't received any communication from the human homeworld. Most species at least attempted to negotiate. What the Zephyrians didn't realize was that humanity's preparations hadn't begun with this invasion. They had begun in 2157, when the first evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence had been discovered, not through radio signals or alien visitors, but through the analysis of quantum fluctuations that suggested faster-than-light travel was not only possible but actively being used by unknown entities. The revelation had triggered the largest classified project in human history. For over 2 centuries, humanity had been building, planning, and preparing, not just on Earth, but throughout the solar system. The mining colonies the aliens saw were real, but they were also camouflage for something much more significant. Elena checked her chronometer. The alien fleet had passed the point of no return. "Initiate revelation protocol," she ordered. Across the solar system, humanity's true preparations began to unveil themselves. The mining equipment on Luna suddenly reconfigured, revealing massive railgun installations that had been disguised as ore processors. The simple fusion reactors on Mars rotated to expose particle beam arrays that had been hidden beneath their industrial facades. The asteroid belt miners activated cloaking fields, revealing that they weren't miners at all, but weapons platforms that had been positioned over decades. But the real surprise was Jupiter itself. What the Zephyrians had mistaken for gravitational anomalies was actually the signature of the largest construction project in human history. Hidden within the gas giant's radiation shadow, humanity had built something unprecedented, a stellar engineering marvel that harvested the planet's rotational energy to power weapons capable of cracking moons. Admiral Kethvar watched in growing horror as his sensors suddenly detected thousands of human vessels that hadn't been there moments before. Stealth technology beyond anything in the Galactic Collective's databases rendered the entire human fleet invisible until they chose to reveal themselves. "How is this possible?" he whispered, as targeting solutions for his massive dreadnoughts simply disappeared. His weapons couldn't lock onto ships that seemed to phase in and out of normal space. The answer came in a transmission from Earth, delivered in perfect Zephyrian. "Admiral Kethvar of the Galactic Collective," came Elena's voice, her image appearing on his main screen. "You are probably wondering how a primitive species knew your name, your ship's designation, and your invasion plans. The answer is simple. We've been watching you for over 200 years. The display behind Elena showed a star map that made Kethavar's blood freeze. It detailed not just his fleet's approach, but the positions of collective forces across 3 sectors of the galaxy. "You see, Admiral, when humanity first discovered we weren't alone, we made a choice. We could reveal ourselves and hope for benevolent contact, or we could prepare for the alternative. We chose preparation. Every mining ship, every research station, every primitive installation you've observed has been part of a defense network 2 centuries in the making." Kethavar realized his tactical displays were showing impossible readings. Human ships were emerging from everywhere, from behind asteroids, from within gas clouds, even from what appeared to be empty space itself. "Your species has conquered 47 worlds," Elena continued. "But those worlds weren't expecting you. We've been expecting someone like you for a very long time. You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing from our system, or you'll discover why humanity survived long enough to reach the stars despite living on a world filled with predators." The Zephyrian admiral looked at his tactical board. His massive fleet, which had seemed so overwhelming minutes ago, was now outnumbered 3-1 by ships that moved like ghosts and carried weapons that defied his understanding of physics. "Retreat," he ordered quietly. Then louder, "All ships, execute emergency withdrawal, maximum speed." As the Zephyrian fleet fled the system faster than they had entered it, Elena allowed herself a small smile. Humanity's greatest weapon had never been technology or numbers. It had been patience, planning, and the hard-learned knowledge that in a universe full of hunters, The smartest prey was the one that prepared to become the predator. The stars were vast and dark, but humanity had been preparing for centuries to light them with purpose.